Boys and girls, do you know Mr. Hector from Poland? We have been friends for at least 15 years, and we've done some nasty shit together. Because Mr. Hector can be very mean and very brutal. I've done a lot of productions with this guy. Today, I'm gonna introduce you not only to Mr. Hector the Tube Amp, but also to the brand new official Mr. Hector the plugin. We're gonna compare the Tube Amp to the plugin. I'm gonna dial in a cool chuga chuga metal tone. And to make this video even more sexy, later on you can download my preset, including an exclusive IR that I created for this plugin. And of course you get a discount, because who wants to pay the full price? Not me, not you. Okay, stay tuned if you want to sound exactly like this. What you just heard was the plugin version. That was one of my presets with my custom IR. No further processing, no further EQing. This is what the plugin sounds like right out of the box if you use my preset. If you're too nervous to wait, there's a link below. You can grab the plugin now. But you can also stay tuned so I can show you how I got there. But first of all, let me tell you my LABOGA Mr.Hector story. So I bought this amp something like, I think more than 15 years ago. And back then I remember everybody here in Germany was playing either 5150s. I've never been the biggest 5150 fan, as you might know. And people used to play Engel Fireballs and Powerballs, the first generation. And these are not, I don't like them. Or if people had the money, they went for a rectifier, because rectifiers have always been way more expensive here in Germany compared to the US, which just makes them more precious to us Europeans. So I was looking for another flavor and stumbled over LABOGA and the Mr. Hector, and I tried it and bought it. And what I liked about this amp was that it's not too far away from all the other modern high-gain amps, but it somehow has its own niche. It's rather full sounding, the distortion is not too fast in a way, and it's a little bit raw sounding as well. I kind of liked it. Not for everything, but I used it a lot over the years on a lot of productions, from gothic rock to brutal death metal. And one thing that I really like about this amp is this mid switch, because it gives the high gain channel two very usable voicings. Most people just use, I call it the main voicing, which sounds slightly scooped and with a big low end and aggressive upper mids, kind of like rectifier-ish maybe, but different. But there's also the other voicing. The problem is if you just switch a button without changing the EQ, it sounds like shit. So you have to readjust the EQ, and then you can make the other voicing sound really nice. It is way more mid-focused, has a lot more lower mids, sounds more vocal, more toneful, is great for lead guitars, great for solos, or whenever you just want to have a warm and fuller tone that is less brutal. So, cool amp, and even better to see that AURORA DSP are coming out with a plugin version. You know, AURORA DSP, also from Poland, just like LABOGA, are friends of mine. You remember I did a video about their Mammoth DSP bass plugin. I think that's still the most successful video on this channel, where I showed you how to dial in a modern dangle bass tone. So when AURORA DSP asked me to do a video about this, I was all ears, because I love this amp and I know AURORA DSP would probably nail the plugin, because I love the Mammoth DSP bass plugin they did. Anyway, let's move over to Cubase. I want to show you the plugin. I want to show you all the features. I want to dial in some cool tones. And after doing that, we will return and compare it to the hardware. Here we go. So here we are, and as you can see, I'm in my other room now, and that is because my main control room has to be used for some serious studio work today. So let me show you the plugin, and let me compare the plugin to the wonderful hardware. And let's load an instance of the MrHector plugin. Looks like this. Let's make it a little bigger. I really love it when I can resize plugins. So we got 4 main pages: stomp boxes, amp, cabinet, and some additional effects. There's also a noise gate here. There's an inbuilt tuner. All you need to get started. There's also a standalone version, so you don't have to use the plugin. And right out of the box, it sounds like this. Doesn't sound bad, but we can do better. So, let me show you the Kristian Kohle preset. It sounds like this. Much better. That's the preset you can download later, and let me show you how to get there. First of all, let's just turn off the boost pedals here and have a listen to the amp. And we can see that there was a lot of gain coming from the pedal. And that sounds nice. Nice distortion, don't you think? A little saggy, but still tight enough. I like that. And we can fine-tune that with an additional boost. I don't really like the tube screamer here. Let's have a listen. Sounds like a wah. Like I really prefer this one on the right here, which is an emulation of the TC preamp. Let's have a listen. Slightly boosting the amp and like shaping the lows. Let's have a look at the amp. We don't have a lot of different controls here. There's a 3-band EQ, traditional. There's not even a presence knob or like any control of the power amp and the lows and the highs, nothing like that. We've got that mid switch I've been talking about. And additionally, we've got a bright switch at the input. And we can switch from diode to tube. So you can basically turn the rectifier tubes on and off. Let's have a listen to that feature first. Just like with the Mesa Boogie rectifier, if you want a tight and aggressive rhythm metal guitar tone, you should switch off the rectifier tube, which will give you more grind and a more precise low end compared to this, which sounds more saggy. But I do use the tube settings sometimes. I will show you later how I do this. But for now, we're looking for something brutal and evil and mean, so we're going to diodes. Gain is fine. I usually have the bright switch on. More grind. It just makes things sound a little more metal, more aggressive. I don't know, maybe boosting the highs before the distortion or cutting the lows or both. Anyway, sounds more aggressive, sounds tighter. My hands are so cold, I can't play. Even less than usual. Okay, the EQ settings aren't really bad. Maybe a little more low end. That's quite extreme. That seems to be okay. Let me show you that mid switch. Most people are using this setting, which I call the standard setting, because if you switch, it sounds like darker, less aggressive, kind of woolly. But the trick is to boost the highs, fully boost the highs, and maybe bring the master level a little bit down. Here you go. And that's a much more mid-focused tone, much more vocal. So if you're looking for something more vocal, something warmer, something fuller, slightly honky maybe, use that mode. It doesn't sound that brutal, but it's, yeah, a little more beautiful. Nice. Let's go back to the main mode. And that's a little more rectifier-ish. You got that huge low end. Sounds modern, sounds aggressive, and the mids are slightly scooped. I forgot to talk about one thing. Let's have a look at the effects here. I haven't even been trying the ping pong delay and the reverb because I don't care. But there's a built-in limiter, which is very useful. I think it's a brick wall limiter, but there's something called low-end control. And this, if I understand it correctly, is like the famous Andy Sneap multiband compression trick. So it kind of tames the low end. Which I think is cool. Sounds nice. I usually go for a Pro Filter MB to get my palm mutes under control, but this, you know, this is really helpful. And then we have a graphic EQ. I forgot to turn it off. Doesn't sound bad. Also very helpful. Can get very extreme. So I'm boosting the highs slightly. I'm reducing around 4K and like here in the honky, woody area. There's also a high cut and low cut filter, but don't think we need more of that. But again, very handy, very cool. Let's have a look at the cab section. And I forgot to say, so far I really like the distortion. It really feels like the real thing to me. Feels like playing a real amp. I think they really nailed those two modes. I'm just not the biggest fan of this cab section. I remember trying this LABOGA 312 cab something like 15 years ago, and I wasn't a big fan of it, but we'll take care of that in a minute. First of all, you can switch between this 312 cab and a 212 cab. It sounds more thrash metal. But it sounds, I don't like it very much. It sounds more honky. Much nicer low end compared to it. It's a little muffled as well. And this one also looks cooler, you know, it's black. We got 4 speakers to choose from. Here I think they got to improve the graphics a little bit. I'm still using the beta version of the plugin, so I'm sure that's going to look better when you get the plugin. So we got 4 speakers. We've got 4 different microphones. And we can move the microphone from the middle, from the center of the speaker to the sides and also away from the speaker. And we can mic 2 speakers at the same time and we can blend them. But let's just start with one speaker. Let's choose a dynamic mic. I'm assuming it's an Shure 57 and this is called Old 30, so I guess that's an old vintage 30. Sounds like this. Sounds okay. I miss some of the lower mids. Sounds a little scooped and a little thin maybe. Not bad though. Then we have the Vet 30, which is a WGS Warehouse Veteran 30. That's nicer. More mid-forward. Less grindy than the vintage 30. But maybe a little gong 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 honky. Yeah, a little too woody for my taste, but usable. Let's see if we move. Let's go vintage 30 and let's move the mic a little bit. Oh yeah, that makes it a lot better. And veteran. Oh no. So this one needs to be more like this. And the vintage 30 can be a little darker. Let's test the other microphones. Small diaphragm condenser. Slightly darker, slightly fuller, but not that different. Ribbon. Yeah, maybe cool for blending things. And a large diaphragm condenser. That's nice. Okay, let's check out the other speakers. Let's go to the other side. We have, what do we have here? RIP 55. I'm pretty sure that's a Reaper 50 from WGS. Where are you? No mids. And we've got a big 12L, which is an Electro Voice 12L. It's only 1 to 2K. Still gotta test that speaker. So far, everything I've heard sounds like this. No, honestly, I really don't enjoy both the Electro Voice and the Reaper 50. But I think the old vintage 30 and the veteran are usable. They just have a mid-range that works a lot better for highly distorted guitar tones. Okay, let's start with what do we have here? 57 vintage 30. That sounds tight and aggressive. Maybe we can blend this with something fuller and darker. Yeah, veteran 30 ribbon. Let's try that. That's better. That's usable. Then we have something called Air, which boosts the highs. I like that. Just opens things up a little bit. So this sounds okay now, but I still feel like the mid-range still is a little out of control, honky yet scooped. If we compare it to my IR, la la la. So let me show you what I did. What I did was I used 2 IRs and blended them. So I started with a very, very standard SM57 V30 IR that I did, I don't know, last year, which is somewhere here, which sounds like this. And then I blended this with another IR on the same vintage 30. By the way, that one is from 2002. Same vintage 30, but another microphone. And I tested 2 microphones, which are my go-to microphones to be blended with a 57. And those are the SE Electronics R&T, which is an extremely expensive microphone, €3,000 tube microphone, but sounds great. And the Biodynamic M160. But I went for the R&T. Where do we have it? Here. Sounds like this. Slightly fuller, lower mid-range. And blended with a 57. Muscular, full-sounding lower mid-range. And I think I even turned off the effects section here, or at least the EQ. And listen to how beautifully that amp sounds now. And remember, you can go from a setting like this, which sounds quite cold and brutal and works great for any modern rhythm tone, to something more vocal. If you do this. And next time, I promise to tune my guitar. And if you want to furthermore darken the tone, maybe for solos or for lead work, or whenever you don't want to sound too piercing, you go from diode to tube mode. And you need to correct the volume a little bit. That's nice. Sounds a lot more vintage, a lot more full, less aggressive. Nice. And as you can hear, the distortion sounds beautiful. I feel like they really nailed it. It feels like playing the real thing. All the controls are really effective. It's very, very well done. Again, the cap section, I'm not the biggest fan of that, but you know, just use my IR and you're ready to go. But let me go back to the brutal Chuga Chuga preset, because now we want to compare this to the real thing. Okay, let me explain the setup. So we are using this preset, but the amp only, without the boost and without the additional effects. And the amp is going into a load box and into the DAW, into Cubase, where I have loaded the same IR. So it's going straight into an IR player. We're playing the same IR, my IR, with both of them. So like this, the setup is pretty much the same, as close as we can get. And one thing you got to remember, many people don't know that, there's a lot of tolerance for a lot of the parts in an amp, especially for the controls here. Depending on how much the companies want to spend on their parts, there's always a tolerance of 10, 20, even 30% sometimes. Which means that even two identical hardware amps always need slightly different settings to sound the same. And in this case, we're comparing a 15-year-old amp to a plugin that has been modeled, I just assume, after a new LABOGA Mr.Hector from 2022. So I'm pretty sure we can't use the same settings and expect things to sound the same. Let's start with a plugin. And here's the amp. That sounds brighter. So let me change the EQ settings a little bit so we get closer. Back to the plugin. Amp. Oh, that's very close. Plugin. That's very close. The amp sounds a little more raw, maybe. The low end is a little more out of control, and right now I prefer the plugin. Back to the amp. There's a little more low end rumble in there. But hey, this is fucking close. I'm actually surprised by how close this is. I was expecting a 15-year-old amp to sound more different, to be honest. Because, you know, after 15 years, you are forced to replace some parts that are no longer available, or maybe you change or improve some little things. But here, plug-in and amp. Maybe the amp is a little more saggy and the plug-in is a little tighter. Or do I have more distortion on the amp? I don't know. But this is getting too scientific. Who cares? It's really close. It sounds really cool. Okay, boys and girls. My dear Polish friend MrHector now has a digital twin, and I can confirm it sounds freaking amazing, right? And if you want to get exactly that sound that you've heard, you click the link below and you can purchase the plugin and get my preset and my IR. It's easy as that. Please do that. Make me rich and famous. Thank you very much. And because it's the same with the plugin, like with the hardware, you know, when everybody's playing angle amps and 5150s, you want to be the cool kid that, you know, shows up with something unique. And same here, same there. One thing I forgot to mention is I'm using the beta version right now, but it's really low on the CPU. No comparison to some of the Neural DSP plugins, which are crazy on CPU. It sounds great. I think it's well programmed, so you can open a lot of instances. It looks cool. I mean, they have told me some of the graphics are not totally finished, but it looks cool. And the best thing is, you've seen it, the tubes are glowing when you do chuga chuga. I could do that all day. I gotta find something that makes the whole room go gung 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 gung. Disco chuga chuga effects. That would be cool. Anyway, so grab the plugin if you're interested, link below. Before doing that, I want you to subscribe to this channel and support me. Thank you very much. And yeah, I just wish you a lot of brutal fun with your new friend, MrHector, the digital version. Yeah, Polish Chuga Chuga Fest. I see you in hell, motherfuckers. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.